Sex is the life force energy that runs through us all. Can you use sexual energy for your spiritual evolution? Or perhaps for emotional healing? Is it even possible? Clinical sexologist Dr. Martha Tara Lee will explore all these and more on Eros Evolution on Om Times Radio.
Hello, and welcome to Eros Evolution, where sexuality and spirituality meets. This is Dr. Martha Tara Lee. I'm a clinical sexologist based in Singapore, and my company is called Eros Coaching. That's EROS coaching.com. I just returned from Sydney, Australia yesterday evening, and I have a guest today. Her name is Dr. Tangie Kuskut. She's clinical sexologist and surrogate partner therapist with private practice in North Texas. She's the founder of Texas Sexual Health and offers treatment for sexual concerns for individuals and couples. Dr. Tangie is also working on a specialization in neuroscience. And in her practice, she blends behavioral modification with neuroplasticity to help her clients reach their sexual goals. The problems she treats includes premature ejaculation, erectile dysfunction, delayed ejaculation, problems with orgasm and sexual desire. She's also a sexual health writer for diverse publications and offers seminars and workshops. She promotes sexual rights, education and empowerment, free of shame, fear, or guilt. And you can learn more about my guest, Dr. Tangie Kuskut, by visiting her website, drtangiethesexdoctor.com. And you can follow her on Facebook, Twitter as well, and also her YouTube channel. So once again, her website is drtangiethesexdoctor.com. Today's show title is No One Wants Sex. So what do we really want? Through her own sexual journey and her clinical practice, Dr. Tangie Kuskut has found that although many people complain about not having sex, having less than desirable sex, or wanting to have more and better sex, that's not really what people want. So what do people want? Dr. Tangie will be discussing what we all want when it comes to sexual relationships in today's show. So welcome, Dr. Tangie.
Thank you so much, Martha, and I am so happy to be back in your show.
Thank you. So, answer this question. What do people want if it's not sex?
Well, yeah, before I tell you that, I know that this title sounds interesting. People want sex. They don't really want sex. Nobody wants sex, per se. Sex is a means. Sex is something that obviously we crave. Sex is something that hopefully we'll enjoy in a healthy way, in an ethical way that we enjoy for ourselves and for others within relationships and whatever that relationship may be. But I have found through working with so many people on their difficulties with their sexuality and intimacy concerns that when you peel all the layers of the onion and when you really go to the soul, the heart, and the deepest confines of people's psyches, they are longing for something that goes beyond sex. And when you ask people what do they really, really, really crave and want and need, the needs are or go beyond the surface of the skin. So that's what I mean when I say that people don't really want sex. They want something more, and they deserve something more, and they're seeking something more. One of the things that I tell my clients is, if you only wanted sex, anything would do. You could masturbate to your heart's content, and I'm hoping that people do. You can do that on your own. You can do that by yourself. But that doesn't seem to be enough. There's something that people are missing in their lives, and that's something that they would like to achieve through enjoying better, more plentiful and more abundant and healthier sex life. And there's a few things that people really, really want. And one of the things among the few that people want with sex is connection. People crave that human connection, and there's no substitute for it. And so one of the things that people really, really, really want when it comes to sex is connection, connecting, relating to others, having that relationship that is based on empathy and compassion and sharing and caring with another human being. So that's only the beginning of what people really, really want when it comes to sex.
Great. I really agree with you how we really just want connection, and I like what you're saying, beyond the surface of the skin.
Yes. So it's more profound than that, and I think it's important that we discuss this because, as you know, I mean, because we work in the same field, sex has been demonized, and it has been relegated to a very bad place in many societies. And people feel very bad about sex, but they want sex, but they can't enjoy it, but they crave it, they can't get it, but they need it, but they feel bad about needing it. So there's a lot of different negative emotions when it comes to sex, even within the context of relationships, committed or not. And people carry a lot of shame and guilt over wanting sex. But when I've asked and what I've discovered is that people, what really, really moves them to seek company of another, even if it's just for a casual encounter actually, is that connection to another, that connection to another human being. That one thing that can never be substituted by porn, by a sex doll, by a masturbation aid, by a vibrator, by any other thing. It's only that another human being can share with you. And again, that is connection. That intertwining of essences that goes on when people get together to celebrate their sexuality. And again, hopefully in a healthy and ethical way, that would be ideal. So that's the one thing that I found among the other things that people want when it comes to sex.
Great. Why do you think we seem to want sex even if we don't really want it? I think you've answered that. It can be only achieved by human connection.
Mm-hmm. Correct. So yes, that is very, very important. And the human connection cannot be, or the desire to achieve that human connection cannot be undermined. It's something that we all need. It's something that we have all been designed to do. And now, let me clarify that I am not talking about establishing long-term committed relationships with people. In whatever way it fashions you, I'm not imposing any ideas onto coupled sex or monogamous sex or non-monogamous relationships. What I say is that we long to reach out and find another piece that can fit with us, that we can enjoy at that level with another individual. Again, it can be for an hour, it can be for longer than that, but people are craving and seeking that. And I have also found this to be true in instances in which people are looking for commercial sex, for instance. They many times want to relate to another human being because they have been denied or their life condition doesn't necessarily allow them to have that on a regular basis. And the lack of it can make a person not only very sad, but also very sick in the sense of mental health concerns, depression, anxiety, and stuff like that. So this cannot be underappreciated. This is something that we need to take into consideration and understand that humans need that. It's just innate in us, and it's something that is very deeply rooted, and we cannot deny it. We just have to seek for ways to better fulfill that need.
So, I'm a sexologist, so I agree with you. And also, I'm also a very sensuous, kinesthetic person. So touch and being touched really means a lot to me. How about the way you explain? Does it come from neuroscience that you specialize in? I'm just curious.
Well, now moving on, and you have touched on a point that I want to touch on too, is that after we have established that connection, there is something also that everybody needs, and it's something that we're starting to learn more about, and it's that skin hunger. I was talking to a colleague of mine just yesterday, Marcella Lyles. She works in the sexual health field as well, and she is starting to do something with skin hunger. And skin hunger is that skin deprivation and the inability of people to get touched for whatever reason.
Yep.
And it is very, very important. And if we need to pause, then I'll continue to talk about skin hunger and sex when we come back.
Yes, thank you very much.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on Om Times Radio.
Dr. Kevin here, and I want to invite you every Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, to join me on the Dr. Kevin Show, where we have a diversity of guests who help you step outside the box, behind the curtain, and see what a load of crap is going on in the world today, so you have more information with which to make better decisions. We'll see you there. Namaste.
Hi, this is Julie Geigel.
I'm Maggie Chula.
And I'm Catherine Glass.
And we're the Psychic Angel Channelers. Join us every week here on Om Times Radio for Angel Talk Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time.
The angels have heard your call and are here to help.
Are you ready to receive?
Remember your magnificence with Angel Talk Tuesday.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. What if business could be fun? What if business is the adventure of living? What are you choosing? Where do you do business that makes it easier, more fun, or more joyful for you? We'd love to see where you do business. Connect with us on Instagram at Joy of Business or Twitter at Joy of Business. And share your pictures with hashtags BusinessDoneWhere and Joy of Business. Let's change the world with business. Free your mind with Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back to Eros Evolution, where sexuality and spirituality meet. I'm Dr. Martha Tara Lee, and I'm with Dr. Tangie Kuskus, who is clinical sexologist and surrogate partner therapist with her own private practice in North Texas. And her website is drtangiethesexdoctor.com. Just before the break, we were talking about sex and what we really want. We also began to talk about skin hunger. So, Dr. Tangie, maybe you want to continue about that piece about skin hunger?
Yes, I would love to. I started to tell you a little bit about skin hunger, and I told you that I have a colleague here in North Texas, Marcella Lyles. She works in the sexual health field, and she's actually a professional cuddler. And she's starting to develop a project on skin hunger. And it is well known, and now we're starting to know more about it as far as the effects of skin contact and deprivation into the health of people, mentally and otherwise. And in experiments that have been made throughout history, we have seen this phenomenon with animals in which the lack of touching, the lack of skin-to-skin contact with their own kind has led for them to not be able to integrate and thrive. And the same can be said about people. There is a very important need inside of us, and it's part of our survival system, and we need to establish not only that connection, but the touching with the people. And it's one of the ways in which we relate to the world. It is actually the sense that comes fully developed in us, is the sense of touch. When we're babies, we cannot hear very well, we cannot communicate, we cannot necessarily taste too many things. However, our skin is very developed, and we can feel the touch of our caregivers. And what happens if you're not touched is that you develop not only mental health issues, but also physiological issues can emerge. And eventually, the inability for people to relate in a healthy way to other individuals. Because in this society, touch has been denied for various reasons to people. People associate touch with sex. And in many instances, and with the people that I work with, the only time and the only instance in which they are touched is if they have sex. So they have associated being touched with having sex. And the only way they can get touched is if they have sex. If they don't have sex, they don't get touched. So they are craving the intimacy, the closeness with another, but they have confused one thing with the other, sex with touch. And then the problem is that touch has become highly sexualized because we don't get enough of healthy touch. And we need to start thinking about a different paradigm to not only get our skin hunger satisfied, but also to learn healthy ways in which we can touch and separate one from the other. So how does it relate to what we really, really want if we don't have sex, as my title suggests? Well, people need and really, really want to be embraced and to have intimacy, to have that contact, skin to skin, with another human being. Not only being able to connect at an intimate level, but to be able to be held, touched, embraced, hugged, kissed, stroked, caressed. That is very, very important and part of the human experience and the survival of the human race. So when people do not get that need satisfied, there's a lot of confusion that can happen between sex and touch. So people want to get touched, therefore they recur to sex, when in fact both activities obviously can be enjoyed simultaneously and very successfully. However, you don't have to wait to have sex to get touched if we learn the right systems to get our skin hunger satisfied. I'm hoping that it's making sense.
Oh, yes, it does make sense. I like what you're saying. I grew up in a family that doesn't have any touch. My parents didn't hug me. And I got really confused when I had my first boyfriend and we were touching a lot. And to me, that was love. And really, it wasn't. I was just touch deprived my whole life. I didn't know I was a touch person until it happened.
Right? And then you became a person that is now aware of touch. And you are among the lucky ones, because for a lot of people, they confuse touch with something else, and then it becomes something negative. I've met people who are, number one, touch phobic, and I do not know about your particular country, but in the United States, I know that this society has become very, very touch phobic. And so, again, the only way in which people have access to touch, which is a primary need of all human beings and a right, to have that healthy touch from our parents, from our caregivers, from our family, from our friends, from people who love us. They only get it through sex, as you explained in your relationship. And so when people have that first rush of oxytocin from touch, which is something that happens with touch, oxytocin being the bonding neurotransmitter hormone in the brain, people just get fixated on that other human being, because for the first time I'm feeling this amazing sensation and my brain is high. And so sometimes I joke with people and I say, well, you're not in love, you're high on oxytocin. When you are used to getting oxytocin all the time, it's better, and it's easier for you to discern different kinds of touch. When you are not used to the oxytocin and your brain being high, obviously the first time you get it, it's like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. I love you. And so you fall in love with everybody that can, or anybody that can provide that sensation, and then you seek it. And then people can get addicted to that, and also to the dopamine, obviously, of the pleasure of the sexual encounters, with which those oxytocin instances come accompanied by. I'm hoping that I'm not getting too technical here into the brain chemistry, but it's one accompanied by the other, and it's all very, very good feelings, hopefully, when people get touched, especially when they get touched sexually. So if you have never had that, there's higher chances that you will have that as an imprint the first time it happens and confuse it by something that probably is not. So I work with populations of all kinds, quadriplegics, elders, young people, and the skin hunger is very evident. I have worked with cases in which people have such a deeply rooted skin hunger that they want to go anywhere to go and get their oxytocin fix. They want to go anywhere to get their touch. They think they want sex, and they say, hey, I want sex. I want to have, a sexual encounter. I want intercourse. I want to be able to make love to a person. But when you go deeper into the matter, you realize, what you really need is to be touched. What you really need is to be cuddled. What you really need is to be embraced, to be shown that you matter to another human being, that they care about you. And so when we talk about it in my practice, they all agree. They're like, oh my God, yes, I haven't been touched in 20 years. Or nobody has ever touched me like that since I was little. Or my parents, as you said, never touched me like that. And my wife or my husband never touched me like that. So then they discover that that's really what they're craving. It's just not a brief sexual encounter in the street. They want that skin-to-skin contact with another human being. And so that's another thing that we really, really want when it comes to sex. We don't just want the sex. We want that skin-to-skin contact. We want to be in the arms of another. We want to be touched. We want to be caressed. We want to be hugged. We want to be stroked on the hair. We want to be held in someone's arms to feel that safety and security that probably we have been missing and lacking in our lives.
That's definitely true. So for those people who are getting touch and connection in their lives, do you think sex is still worthy of their time and effort to go into or explore?
If those people who are having that healthy touch in their lives, if they have the space to grow and explore more in their touch practices, you mean?
Yeah.
Definitely so. I mean, I am in the other side of the spectrum, come from a culture in which touch is happily abundant, and I come from a family that touched me a lot in a very healthy way. I mean, I was hugged, I was loved, I was kissed, I was shown physical affection in a overflowing way, and I think there's always the room and the space for people to keep seeking, but it's not from a place of lacking it and from a place of denial. It's from a place of abundance. It's from a place of, this is so good, I never want to miss this. I am happily celebrating this. Versus the other of, I've never had it, and now I'm seeking it probably in the wrong places.
Great. Thank you.
So definitely, yes, I think there's always room for more in both sides of the spectrum. And I would hope that everybody is getting their fix, their nurturing for the skin that we so much crave and deserve, not only at the physical level, but also at the mental, emotional, and spiritual level.
Definitely. I love what you're sharing about oxytocin and how some people just never know because they've never had. And the idea of being in a place of abundance. So we have a short break and we'll be back with Dr. Tangie Kuskud after this.
The Real Conscious Connection. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
What if living didn't have to be so serious?
What if you could move beyond your problems with greater confidence and ease than you've ever imagined?
Throw your labels out the window and join the Irreverent Therapist for practical tips and a very different way of approaching the changes you would like to create.
Marilyn Bradford
and Pam Hodling
have empowered hundreds of people to come out of self-judgment, quit looking to experts, and begin to create the lives they desire.
Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Irreverent Therapist Show.
Are you ready to shift your energy, consciousness, and limiting beliefs? Join me, Shefali Burns, every Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern on Shifting with Shefali here on Om Times Radio. Shift the blocks, limitations, and negative energies that have kept you from experiencing a life filled with joy, peace, love, abundance, and happiness. Are you ready to shift with Shefali? Are you ready to shine your brilliance?
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. Om Times Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single Om Times endeavor. Host your show with Om Times Radio Network. As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. Conscious media for conscious minds. Om Times.
You are listening to Eros Evolution on the Om Times Radio Network, and you can share this show with your friends right now by sending them the link omtimes.com/mobile. Our mobile player is so advanced it does not need an app, only the link. So once again, it's omtimes.com/mobile. And just before break, we were talking about neuroplasticity. And is there anything else that you would like to add to our discussion, Dr. Tangie?
Yes, and I'm a nerd for the human brain, and so I just want to touch a little bit on neuroplasticity because I think there's a very important connection between what we really, really want when it comes to sex and why we want it specifically. And we have been all designed with a sexual system that is connected, obviously, to everything else in our bodies. But the brain is the one that controls everything, is kind of the master orchestrator of it all. And sex, as we know, originates in the brain. So the part of your body that really has to be erect, ready, awake when it comes to sexual relationships is your brain. If the brain works, then it will make its way to the places where it needs to go. And one of the things that happens and why sex is so important and why we feel what we feel with sex is because of the effects that it has on the brain. And it activates on the brain that sexual contact and positive encounters with people. It affects and alters our neurochemistry in such a way in which we are under the influence. We are under the influence of very, very powerful drugs that we produce on our own. And so we give ourselves a very powerful high when we are engaged in a relationship that is fulfilling and it's obviously mutually advantageous. So when it comes to sex, and one of the reasons why it becomes so important to people is that we can get very, very good feelings that we could get from other sources otherwise. However, sex is a very important and fun vehicle to get all those hormones at once in our brain and get that ultimate high of endorphins, which make us feel good, make us alleviate pain. We know that, that's why there's a joke that when you have a headache, don't use it as an excuse not to have sex. Actually have sex to alleviate the headache. Because the endorphins actually alleviate the pain. They act as painkillers, natural painkillers in the body. So that is something that we want. We want to really feel good, and sex is a very natural, it doesn't cost a penny, and it could be a very effective way of achieving a state of well-being. Something that we really, really want is to feel the bond and the connection to another. Well, sex and through engaging in sexual activity of a positive kind, we actually secrete and produce high levels of oxytocin. And oxytocin is a hormone that makes us feel bonded, connected, and in love with another person. And we feel different levels of oxytocin at different times in our lives. It's very important for family bonding, mother with child, child with parents, etc. So it is a hormone that makes us feel very, very good. It makes us feel kind of in tune with the other person, bonded, that we have really established that connection and we feel in love. And a lot of people call it the love hormone. We also have dopamine, and dopamine is a pleasure hormone. And we are flooded with it when we have sexual contact of the positive kind. And I say the positive kind because there's sexual contact, obviously, that can be unpleasant, and that's not the topic that we're discussing. But I just want to make clear that it's not just any kind of sexual contact. So when we have sex, we're flooded with dopamine, and people get high on dopamine, and people can get high on dopamine from other means, but it can be very intoxicating. And a lot of people seek the dopamine, not necessarily seek to have a relationship with a person, but they seek the dopamine. If they have never had it, if they have never experienced that, it can be quite intoxicating. And there's other hormones also that come into play, but those are probably the main ones that we see that surge. There's others like serotonin and vasopressin and other hormones, but these three hormones combined, they make you feel really, really good and give you a state of well-being, make you sleep better, they relax you, they relax your body, increase cardiac activity, but then it drops to a very relaxing state. So there's a lot of things that happen when we have sex that puts us in a very good state of mind, relaxes the body, levels functions in the body, allows us to kind of fall into a state of contentment and well-being. And everybody wants to feel good. Human beings want to feel good, something that we want. We crave things that are positive stimuli, and we don't want anything that will cause pain or discomfort or suffering. So we're pleasure seekers, and we seek pleasure through sex. We can master it and achieve it in a very healthy way for ourselves and others, or we can use it obviously destructively, and we know what those instances are in which sex is not used as a positive means. But that's one of the things that we want. We want to feel good, and sex is a means to achieve that in our sexual relationships and our relationships with others. Allow us to have those vehicles to achieve that with sex. So that's one of the things that we really, really want. We don't want the sex just for the sex. We want to feel good. Nobody wants sex that makes them feel crappy afterwards. Everybody wants sex that makes you feel blissful and happy and high and makes you see life in a different light. And I know I'm going to ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot. Have you had sex that makes you have some goggles on your eyes that you see everything pink and the birds are chirping and there's butterflies everywhere and the flowers are blooming? Have you had that kind of sex?
Definitely. And I think it can only happen when there's sex with love. Not just sex.
So, yes, and so sometimes people go through different relationships or experiments, but what they really, really want is not just to go and have sex with the most people possible. At least I do not know of anybody who's on that marathon. People want to feel good. People want to feel good doing it. So they're looking for that high on the brain. They're looking for those systems in the brain that light up, that allow them to have that sensation afterwards. Sex can be great while it's happening, but if after it ends, it makes you feel good for a long time, makes you think about it and enjoy it again. If it's a good memory that it's imprinted in your brain, if it's something that you look forward to because you have positive associations with it, that's a better sex. And that's what people want. People want that everlasting feeling of sex after sex has ended. They want to be able to preserve it and save it and savor it and go back to it.
Mm-hmm. Do you have some quick tips for listeners to say how they can make sure that they get what they really want through sex?
The first thing, and I will always say this, the first thing that you need to do is know yourself. If you do not know yourself, you will never be able to tell another human being what is it that you need, what is it that you want. And I know there's a lot of people that would love to have mind readers as lovers. That would be probably ideal. But a lot of us, probably the vast majority of us, did not come in with that system. We're not mind readers. We can't see into somebody's brain, into somebody's thoughts. So we need to become very, very much aware of who we are and our essence and how to communicate that is very important. But we cannot talk about communication if we don't even know what that is, if we don't even know our own selves, our own bodies. And that includes mind, body, soul. And I think we need to find that connection for us, for ourselves. Mind, body, soul of sex. What is it that mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually fulfills me in a sexual relationship, within myself? How do I live with my skin? How do I feel? How do I want to be approached, touched? What do I enjoy? What would I want to grow into?
Yeah.
What is my goal for within me? And how can I share this with another person? But the first person that you need to share this with and be ready to celebrate this with and experience this with and experiment with is yourself. There's no more in that journey. The journey ends there if you do not know yourself, because you will always be looking for something that nobody can give you because you do not even know what that is.
How true. Yeah.
So definitely know that's the first step. And then obviously you have to become your own communicator and advocate, and the best one, I hope. So we need to lose the fear of sex. We need to lose the fear of sex. And I think when we dissect it and when I present it to my clients in this way, it's like, you want the connection. You want to satisfy your skin hunger. You want to feel good not only during but afterwards. You want to establish a pathway of connection and joy with another person. That's when they start realizing that sex is important to them.
Thank you very much. So more after this break.
The future of Internet radio is here. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Eros Evolution is where sexuality and spirituality meets. Join me, clinical sexologist Martha Tara Lee, on Eros Evolution on Thursdays, 4 p.m. Eastern on Om Times Radio.
Live with medium Lisa Phoenix, Mediumship Messages and Musings, explores mediumship and all things metaphysical. Lisa Phoenix invites you to reach above and beyond your everyday experiences, to explore new dimensions in the spirit world. She will do live readings to connect callers to their loved ones in spirit, shares engaging stories and teachings from her own personal experience, and will have intriguing conversations with other mediums, spiritual teachers, and healers to help you understand the metaphysical world so you can connect to these forces in your day-to-day life. Join your host on this magical and metaphysical journey into the world of spirit every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. Om Times Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment, a philanthropic organization. Their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Om Times, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle. Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back to Eros Evolution, and this is the last 15 minutes of our show talking about how nobody wants sex. So what do we really want? Dr. Tangie Kuskut, she's a clinical sexologist and surrogate partner therapist with her own private practice in North Texas. She's also the founder of Texas Sexual Health and offers treatment for sexual concerns for individuals and couples. She specializes in neuroscience, and she treats people with problems including premature ejaculation, erectile dysfunction, delayed ejaculation, and all problems relating to orgasm and sexual desire. You can find her on Dr. Tangie, thesexdoctor.com, and you can find her on Facebook and Twitter. On Twitter, she is at thesexdoctorRX. So we will...
Thank you.
Yeah. We have been exploring all these different things about sex, and one of the big things that came up was just before the break, how to really get what you want through sex. And Dr. Tangie was emphasizing the importance of knowing yourself and what you want when it comes to body, mind, soul, sex. She also mentioned the importance to experiment with yourself so that you can satisfy your skin hunger, feel good during sex and after, and develop a great pathway of connection for yourself. We are in the last 15 minutes. We are in the last 15 minutes. So one of the big pressing questions I really want to be asking is how we can let me look at what I have written down. The link between sexuality and spirituality. Is there anything you'd like to add between this link? Yeah, this is a question that I always ask. I've asked you this before, but I just want to ask maybe that you mentioned briefly.
Yes, I'll be happy to. We are beings that are interconnected in many different systems, not only physical at the physical level, but we know that it's very important at the mental level and the spiritual level that we're connected. And even people who may not believe wholeheartedly in, religion or anything like that. We're not talking about necessarily that. I tell people, regardless of what you believe, you have an essence in your core. You have a system of beliefs and values that are very intrinsic to you. However, in whatever way you acquired that, and let's call that your spirituality. And spirituality is very important because it is what not only gives you value systems to live your life by here, but it's something that keeps you hoping or gives some sort of hope for the future, even after you have migrated from this form of life in the physiological sense. So when you are a human being, you can't deny that there's some connection, there's a need or a craving to connect to something that is greater than ourselves. And our sexuality is part of that. And it's so important that when you are denied your sexuality in whatever which way, it can destroy you as a person. I have dealt with cases here in which I had, for instance, remember this case of a transgender woman whose parents told her that they would have preferred that she would have become a serial killer than a transgender. So that denial of who she was or who she is was so devastating that it had a ripple effect that's still going on, and she's in her late 50s. And so, and I know many, many cases like that. When you're denied your sexuality, you die like a flower or like a plant that is not given enough water or light. And you cannot be a truly successful, fulfilled, thriving person if there's no acknowledgement of that sexuality and you can live it freely. We know that sex moves the world. Sex moves the world for many reasons other than just sex itself, as the title of this show suggests. It's not because what we want is sex. It's because of all the other things that are attached to it. And sex is part of our core and who we are as human beings. It is part of the invisible us, the things that we cannot see and measure in us, just like our spirituality. When we're denied our spirituality, we also die. And when we're denied our sexuality, we also die. We're all interconnected. We cannot separate those systems. It's very important that we honor who we truly are to be able to be holistic people, to be a holistic human being, to be a whole person. We can't just divide and say, well, I'm going to be a mental person and I'm going to forget about my body. Well, yeah, you can die too. So we have to work with all the components of who we are. We cannot just work with ourselves in parts. And sex is a big part of it, and it's so essential that it will create a lot of pain and suffering and damage if we're denied to be who we are truly sexually. So that's the connection that I feel. It is as essential to us as it is breathing.
Thank you so much. Beautifully said. I really appreciate what you share about how a part of us does die. And I have certainly seen this in the faces and spirits of the people that I come in contact with.
It is, yes. And, when I worked with people that have told me that stories, and I have seen the devastating effects of being denied your sexuality in whatever way, and especially by the people who are supposed to be the most important people in your life. It's truly devastating, and it just drives your soul. It drives you in the core as a human being. And those people are just carcasses trying to make sense out of what they have been denied of. And it is very unfair. It is a very unfair and unnecessary suffering. We have no right to infringe into someone else's core. It is everybody's right. It is everybody's need. And it's everybody's want to be able to be whole. And that includes our sexuality. And I think this is a great segue to finish expounding on this topic of we don't want sex, but what do we really, really want, is that at the end of the day, we all want to be whole. We all want to come around in that circle. We all want to feel like we have landed our purpose, our mission, that we can live our life in balance and in harmony with ourselves and with others. And we achieve that through the connections that sex allows us to have, because sex is a means for us to relate and celebrate and fulfill who we are and fulfill who we are with another person. So at the end of the day, we want to feel whole. We want to feel complete. We want to feel like our life here is worth something, that it matters, that we are full, that we have fullness, that we have energy, that we have happiness. And so that is something that we definitely really, really, really want at the end of the day, to feel whole, to feel happy, to feel plentiful, to feel like we matter, to feel that our lives have not been wasted, and that we have been able to fulfill our life's purpose. And sex allows us to do that.
Great. Thank you so much. So just for listeners, as we come to a close for this show, is there anything that you'd like to share with listeners about your work or upcoming projects, talks, anything?
I have a talk coming up, but it's here in Dallas. And it is about relationships approaching Valentine's Day here in this part of the world. So that's the project that I have. My practice is always open I'm always open to work with people from all over. I enjoy the work that I do as a clinical sexologist. I'm also working with colleagues in the Austin area. We're going to be expounding and actually expanding on this topic of touch with an expert that we have coming up, and that's March. So follow me on Facebook and Twitter and on my website so you can all stay abreast of where I am and what I'm doing. I love to talk to people. I love to spread the message of the importance of a healthy sexuality, just like you, Martha. And I thank you very much for inviting me to your show once again. I hope that people have found the topic to be enlightening.
Yeah.
And I love every minute of it. I love talking about it. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing your energy and knowledge with us. There's so much power in your voice, and I really appreciate your wisdom and taking the time to come on this once again. So next week we have Rob and Janine, actually, Alex. They've been on the show before, and they'll be talking about the secret intelligence of relationships. They will also be promoting their new book in this show next week. So tune in to Eros Evolution next week. And this has been Dr. Martha Tara Lee of Eros Coaching.